one of the observations is that right wing is also driven by very egocentric personalities sometimes. It was bipolar then, now it's become the rainbow spectrum. We feel as if people who appreciate satire as that number is reduced, but I don't think that is necessarily true. It is just that they are drowned out by the bigger engagement that happens through memes and videos and things like that. I think Dhurandhar, just instead of taking an incremental jump, it just took a stratospheric leap. I think even if the changes come, they are not enough. Which in a way is good, but it also leads to things becoming more complicated when it comes to satire.
I guess the government is listening, at least if not the post that you
no,
have.
I have no delusions on that front. I don't think. Like for example, when Operation happened, I am sure that all these different shades of orange and saffron, came together and with one voice they said that, hey, this is what is needed. But I think we have a lot more freedom of speech than the liberals will ever have.
Namaskaram, welcome to Shree TV. So this is a new initiative by Shree TV. We're going to roll out a new channel itself. So welcome you all, one and all, to the very first episode of what we call a Shree TV World. So this is a channel which gonna feature mostly or possibly everything in English. So we want to reach out to the world. That is our objective, and we're gonna start it from today. And we have a very, very honorable satirist, if I have to call him, but he also wrote a book. So I would just name him an author of the book Twisted Thread. He also a sales professional leading a company, a sales company. I don't want to name the company so that it doesn't get into any kind of problem later. But very, very happy. Really, it's a privilege to have him as our first guest on Shree TV World, Mr. Bhavesh Kansara.
Namaste. Firstly, I am excited to be on Shree TV, and I would like to wish the very best for Shree TV, and honored to be starting this conversation series in English. So my pleasure to be a part of this.
Now, in fact, why we had to kind of start with you is, I remember kind of tweeting in posts sometime, rather posting something in X sometime that there are only two people who has a very good sense of humor, at least in the world of X, from Chennai, and one is, as you know, Symbianian, he writes in Tamil. The other one is obviously has to be you. I don't see any competition anywhere near, at least from the southern part, who could match your wit. How did you really develop such a kind of skill? Or it's just magnificent that somebody like you could keep people entertained across the world.
First of all, thank you for sharing that. Honestly, I'm not sure how I got into this, but satire as such is not something that I had in mind when I started writing these threads, which later became the book called Twisted Threads. But I always used to like writing. I have a defunct blog now. I remember writing articles way back in 2007-8. And even before that, I like to read, I like to write, I like to read poetry as well. So there was a little bit of literature affinity that I've always had. And like many other people who are currently active on social media, I think 2013-14 was the turning point when a lot of us looked at Twitter and the way it flattened the world, right? Where you could comment something to your favorite celebrity or your favorite politician or your not so favorite personality.
And they respond as well.
So for a celebrity, it is a double-edged sword. But for people like us, it became an opportunity to talk about them, to comment about what they do. And I remember, I think one of my first threads was on Shashi Tharoor being interrogated by the police. And in those days, things were very simple, so the gray shades came much later. You either support a party or oppose it. In a sense that if you support party A, then you oppose party B. So it was fairly
It has
black and
become,
white
yeah,
in those days.
fairly bipolar now.
It was bipolar then. Now it's become the rainbow spectrum. Which in a way is good, but it also leads to things becoming more complicated when it comes to satire. But in those days, there was a comment I think somebody made that Rahul Gandhi reads Gita and Upanishads, and then that got me thinking. Okay, so where did he learn it from? So that created a thread. So I think there were so many opportunities in those days, and I really took to it, fish to water. I enjoyed doing it, writing
So
limericks,
Rahul
writing
Gandhi
threads.
pulled you in.
I think you can say that. Although in my book Twisted Threads,
He's a swimmer as well. He's a very good swimmer, isn't he?
there, but I do thank Dia Mirza for doing it, because she is the one who commented about Amarnath being discovered by some shepherd called Buta Malik.
Okay.
And that led me to write a thread introducing the character Abdul Malik, who in those days became fairly famous, I would say. I no longer invoke him, but Dia Mirza is one of the reasons why I got into it.
Okay. So Dia Mirza, Rahul Gandhi.
Yes.
So again, just taking things not very lightly, talking about satire.
Yeah.
Right now, we have reached a phase where they have to at least write the word satire before uttering anything, so that people will take it as it is.
Yeah.
So, as a society, have we become very serious in, or what do you think?
I would say that in a way, yes. I think a lot of people have developed thin skin. That level of tolerance has really reduced to some extent. We know very well, for example, that there are certain things that you simply don't satirize. So I was very clear right at the start when I was in Chennai that I avoided writing satire on what's happening in Tamil Nadu. I mean, it's rife for satire. We all know that, especially the events in the last 6 months to 1 year.
I guess Joe became famous because of satire.
Yes,
if nothing else.
exactly.
I guess he is an icon of satire.
Yeah. So in a way, I think sometimes I worry that the number of such things is increasing. Number of such things that you can't talk about without having any repercussions. In a way, yes. Is it a cowardly thing to do? Maybe yes. But we have other things to take care of as well. So we take a decision not to be very confrontational. But I think it is true. But I also believe that with social media and the short-term gratification, memes and things like that becoming very common, we feel as if people who appreciate satire as that number has reduced. But I don't think that is necessarily true. It is just that they are drowned out by the bigger engagement that happens through memes and videos and things like that.
Right. So, in fact, that takes us to the next question. Memes, memes. I guess the word viral itself, you can just connect that with memes.
Yes.
You just put anything out there as a meme, and that's going viral, and that becoming famous, and everybody try to copy it. So, what is the difference? I guess you're going to put the same thing in words as satire, but with kind of a caricature or cartoon, it becomes even more connected, or people are able to laugh at it.
Yeah.
So, should every satirist should become a meme creator or something like that? Is that what the society has pushed you into?
I think the society has become like that. However, a lot of that push also comes from technology companies which want to increase the engagement, and memes are the best way to do it right now. Should satire always be converted into memes? I am not sure. But memes are a part of the satire as a genre.
Correct.
And there are some great ones that come about, but the noise ratio sometimes is too high. Even otherwise, I think there is always a tendency to say that, especially nowadays, and maybe I would use the term right wing very loosely here, is more into just creating text rather than getting it into a more visual medium. And in that way, I am very happy that memes are proliferating. But I would prefer maybe more videos, like what's happening in the world of movies, right? I think that has a lot more impact than memes or even a written article or anything like that. But I think we have to start somewhere, and that's happening quite well. Yeah.
Right. So I was just thinking, any of your satire that has been taken so seriously that people have started abusing you so much?
It happens. I mean, that's the nature of satire, because there is always this balance between how do you keep it subtle,
Right.
so that people need to get that wow factor when they understand what you're writing about.
Correct. Correct.
So that has to be there.
So that comes
But
with the timing, right?
yes, the timing and the text and the references that you use and so on. But at the same time, it needs to have that message out there. So one example I could give you is what used to happen with comedies. Vivek was always known for his. It was a satire, right? I mean, what he was doing, and
With a
people
social
always said
message.
that people remember the joke, but not the message.
Exactly.
And so there is this balance that you always have to strike on. How do you present it to the audience? But the audience is a variety, right? I mean, they are across the spectrum. So in fact, if I look at the number of people who have blocked me for my posts, I've been blocked more by the so-called right-wing people than the left-wing people, because they take what I write literally and then they start abusing and so on. So it does happen, I think.
Right. So, as you said, I guess you have your own kind of restriction writing about Tamil Nadu.
Yeah.
But as of today, as we see, there are a lot of stand-up comedians
Yeah.
making huge money, right? A lot
Yeah.
of bucks
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And there is no restriction whatsoever.
Yeah.
Within a private room.
Yeah.
They can talk about everything openly, freely, and
Yeah.
they can use all the cuss word. That is again a part of satire.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe what do you think is the difference? Just writing on X as well, speaking and talking on a podium as a stand-up comedian.
I think stand-up comedy as a genre has come from the Western world, right? So there is always a tendency to mimic what happens there. Like for example, what George Carlin used to do, or anybody else. Like you said, it is satire. A lot of what stand-up comedians do today, we may not agree with it, but it is satire nonetheless. They are calling out the government. They feel it's not doing the right things. They are uh, essentially ridiculing a lot of that. So it is there, but sometimes I feel what happens is, there are two things, right? One is you observe what is happening. You agree with it, you talk about it. You disagree with it, you talk about it. But then you start identifying yourself with some kind of a larger cause. You label yourself as a social activist, or you label yourself as a left liberal, and so on.
Andolan
And then
Jeevi.
these labels start driving your thoughts. So it tends to become monotonous. It tends to become rather in your face, and it is not that we don't have a culture of these kind of comedies. I always used to say that Gujarat, for example, the comedy scene has always been there. I used to call this as sit down comedies, because the performers sit down and talk about it. They mix jokes with folklore, with songs, and so on. So it's very entertaining as well. There are no cuss words. So I think stand-up comedy works well when there is a little bit of a sincerity in it, which I believe a lot of people lack. But then there is an audience for everybody, so it kind of goes on.
Exactly. So just talking about the audience, right? So there's so much of cuss words because there's no censorship whatsoever. Uh, do you have to be in a light, or do you, if you kind of appreciate the cuss words, you become a light? What exactly is happening there?
I think there are two factors. I'm not really against cuss words.
Right.
In fact, there are studies done which say that the use of cuss words does create a lot more emphasis on what you want to convey. So that's always there. But again, I feel that it is sometimes taken to the extreme. So I feel cuss words become the joke. And somewhere then there is no message at all.
Right.
The message is that, hey, I'm very angry with something. So, and then start with a string of cuss words, and then that becomes a joke. So Uh, in general, I feel okay. I mean, I use cuss words on Twitter as well, but not to the point of just creating a string of them, and it puts off a lot of people. But the audience seems to be happy with it. So who am I to complain?
Yeah, they're paying money just to listen to
Paying money to
it.
just listen to some cuss words, I
Right.
guess.
So
Yeah.
right now, the today's trend, as you know, is Dhurandhar. Right.
Yeah,
So I heard you say that you watched it twice
I
already.
did. Yes.
I so I guess many people believe that cinema industry, at least Bollywood,
Yeah.
is going to be divided into two, before Dhurandhar and after Dhurandhar.
Yeah.
Is it really that impactful in your perspective?
I think yes. I I believe that before Dhurandhar, the idea of the so-called right-wing cinema was almost feeble, while a movie like Kashmir Files created that impact. Maybe it was necessary for Kashmir Files to be there to get the ball rolling. But there was always this idea planted by the mainstream journalists, influencers, film reviewers, critics, and so on that the right wing cannot make good movies. And I'm talking about good movies. I'm not talking about linear narratives. Where you have an event, so you're talking about it. The event is not the story.
Right.
Okay. The story is what you want to convey. The story is different. History can be the story. The event is just an event. But Dhurandhar changed all of that. Okay. Uh, that is one part of it. But I don't think that is the main part, because I don't think art drives the world. Okay. Money drives the world.
Correct.
So I think the bigger heartburn for these people is that somebody who identifies as, again, so-called right-wing is able to get the funding that is necessary to create a movie like this. So this completely shatters this uh, mask that the leftists had created. I call them as Taliberals. The Taliban and liberal combination. That they had created this whole idea. This castle in the wind that right wing cannot do this. I mean, they can't say right wing doesn't have money because they'll feel like money minded. But they always said you don't have the skills, you don't have the
Correct.
capacity to do this. But now it is there. I mean, it's being praised by so many people. So I believe it will change the way things work. But my thing is that Dhurandhar is not the origin of this. I mean, you could see from the last many years that I think there has always been a shift. The zeitgeist towards these kind of movies has happened. It's always there. I think Dhurandhar, just instead of taking an incremental jump, it just
The
took
loop.
a stratospheric leap.
Okay.
So I do believe that it would be a turning point in how Bollywood now will perceive movies and stories, but also the funding and the money part of it. I think that is for me more important, and that's less talked about even on social
I
media.
guess nobody want to just, because anyway, Dhurandhar, with so much of money made, I guess they can make another 100 movies
Yes.
very similar to Dhurandhar. Somebody is going to just
Yeah.
find, because even the producers, they would prefer to make profit.
Yes.
They are not
Yes.
making money
Absolutely.
just for a
Yeah.
social
Yeah.
message,
Yeah.
right? So if they find the no money in the bank, I guess
Yeah.
they're just going to fund it.
And this is true for even so-called art filmmakers. They still want to make money. It is
Right.
just that they've adopted an ideology where money is the bad word. Like Nehruji used to say that, I don't like the word profit. Then so they are hard bound. I mean, they want to make money, they want to get money, but they can't say that I am making this movie because I want to earn money. But it's ultimately about that. I mean, yes, there is passion, yes, there is art, but how are you going to realize it without somebody funding you? Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
just coming back to your initial question, where you kind of talked about satire, and you don't want to touch certain aspect of politics in Tamil Nadu. Whereas if you see the Talibrals,
Yeah.
right, they can write about anything. They can just abuse all the divinity, spirituality. They can call out, not call out. They can just denigrate anybody they wish without any repercussions.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So is because, again, because of the politics, because you kind of, rather, the right wingers feel that they can be backed by a certain party, or an ideology, or maybe right-wing groups, but that's not coming this side, but they have all the backings, fundings. Is that the difference?
I think that is an outcome of what has happened over many decades. The one way of looking at it is whether a party will come to the rescue of, say, a right wing, a right wing personality if he or she has said something wrong, and we have lots of examples of that where the party has not really come to the rescue, at least as optics. I'm sure there's lots of things happening in the background, but people don't know what is happening in the background. If they don't see it, it doesn't exist. Okay.
Absolutely.
But I believe that is more a symptom of a larger issue, which is that one difference between how a stereotypical left wing and right wing works is how they capture power. The idea of a right wing party capturing power would be to place people in positions of power at certain places, right? Certain institutions, which is perfectly all right. There is nothing wrong with it. Every party does that, but lacks the ability to create frameworks that can drive this power in perpetuity, like
Right.
for ages or for decades or at least for years. That framework sometimes gets lost. Now,
Do
the
they have the
biggest,
idea that they need a framework?
yes. So with the leftists, it's all about the framework. As I said, with if Romila Thapar is not around, there are many Romila Thapars always available because the framework for that exists. Peer review is a framework for any
References.
non-STEM uh, domain. Peer review is simply a framework that has been created. I write something, you say, hey, yes, what he has written is true, and then it becomes a circle jerk. Okay. So I think if you look at India from a political perspective, the biggest framework that we have is the constitution.
Right.
Okay. So it all boils down to what constitutional rights are given to everyone, and which party is willing to honor those rights and not. So I think fundamentally that has to be addressed. I don't know if there is a solution to that. The mindset or the stereotypical mindset of the two spectrum, left and right, are very different world over, not just in India. Um, and that is why these things happen. So if you ask me if I do something and somebody is going to come in support, some party is going to come in support of me, I like to believe that they will not.
Right.
And therefore my behavior is always around that.
Right.
Neither I have the time or money or the energy to do that, and nor I believe that anybody will have the time or money or energy to go after
support you.
someone like me. So, so I'll just keep things simple.
Okay. So I guess you were an author.
Yeah.
I'm not saying where. I guess
Yeah.
you wrote a book
Yes,
sometime
yes.
back. It's been ages.
Yes.
So
yes.
when are we expecting the next one? Is it on
That's
card?
that's a tough question to answer. I have been dabbling with something better in the last few years.
Dhurandhar type of
No, I think that's that's too much and
storming the
not
literary
in my
world.
line at all. But when I released the first and only book, Twisted Threads, as the name suggests, it was based on the threads stories that I wrote for Twitter at that time, and I learned a lot about what not to put in a book as well. So one of the criticisms of the book was that it's very topical. So today, for example, if somebody picks up Twisted Threads, it has very less relevance because the events are around 2014 to 2017, right? And it starts off without any context. So I've accepted those criticism, and that's very important for anybody that you write something, you get positive criticism, negative also. But so now I know what I can do better. So I have been working on a story which spans 1 or 2 decades to weave it with the political and social events, especially in the late 90s and the early 2000s. It's in the works, but as you introduced me at the start, I have a
As an
day
author.
job as well, so I'm trying to balance between the two. But one of my objectives is to at least get the draft done by middle of next year. and see if I can get it released sometime later then.
Right. All the best for your books.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we'll see it as soon as possible.
Yes.
You had this kind of maybe what we call an agony that the current dispensation in the center is not doing enough for education. Right. So I guess you've been having that. I would call it a grudge to an extent for almost a decade. Do you think that the changes come?
I think even if the changes come, they are not enough. I sincerely believe that the current government has not done enough for education, for STEM. Maybe I'll just mention sciences, basic sciences. The NEP draft, which was released, I think, in 2019 or 2020, which was originally, I think the draft started, the committee started working when my favorite politician, Prakash Javadekar ji, was in power as Minister of Education, right? HRD Minister, rather.
Right.
There was no Ministry of Education at that point. So the NEP draft is a rambling document, but it contains some very good suggestions. And it ends by stating that while all these suggestions are great, but it requires political will to make it happen, which the political will exists for certain things with any government. Unfortunately, education is not where I think the government wants to show political will.
Correct.
I wouldn't call this government as lacking political will in general, but it chooses what to do, and education is definitely not one of them. I don't know about the primary education part. I come in contact with those aspects very less, but I do work with many universities as a part of my day job, and I think there is a general feeling that the focus on research and development, the kind of funding that has been given has not been up to the expectations. Plus, there are too many riders nowadays if you want to get a research funding and so on. So, I think a lot more could have been done. One of the biggest complaints that the NEP had was that our spend on education as a percentage of GDP, I think that has remained constant even after the NEP draft was out, and then the government started talking about an ANRF, Anusandhan National Research Foundation. But I don't think that increased spend is visible anywhere.
Okay,
and there is a lot more bureaucracy now than what it was earlier, is what I hear from the universities themselves. This is not my view. So yes, in short, I don't think they've done enough.
There's still a long way to go.
There's a long way to go.
Even to consider that education could be one of their major agenda.
It has to be one of their major agenda. And I don't believe, I think the easier battle that people sometimes talk about is change the syllabus.
Right.
I don't honestly believe in that. I think a well-made movie can change your ideas, can raise your consciousness much better than a paragraph for which at the most you will get 5 marks in the exam and maybe go from B plus to A minus or something like that. I am not too keen on the syllabus getting changed, that is one. By the way, when BJP comes to power in certain states, they do change the syllabus. It's just that we don't know about it.
Right.
Because whenever Congress comes to power, we hear that, oh, they have now changed the syllabus, right? They couldn't have changed the syllabus if BJP had not changed it.
Correct.
So BJP does its work.
Right.
But I think the issue is, I don't think as a part of the larger educational reforms that shouldn't be even in the top 5. I think there are better ways for us to teach history, for example. If our concern is that syllabus is not teaching the right history to our students, I think there are better ways to do that.
Right.
I think the focus should be on how to impart better basic education and strengthen the research that needs to be done. I think that, in my opinion, is more important.
Okay, so I guess the government is listening, at least if not the post that you
No,
have.
I have no delusions on that front. I don't think.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, if somebody can just take it to them.
It is. I think there have been a few handles on Twitter. I think some of them have even met the ministers.
Okay.
And well, I don't think anything has come out of it.
Okay.
But again, this government
You never know.
likes to keep things in the
See,
background. That's it. So we'll never know.
yeah. The other thing I thought I'll ask you is about, we know that the government you support, or, the kind of ideology you support might not come to, back you up, when you're under fire. But we also see among the right wingers, there's always a cross criticism, somebody trying to pull the other one down. Unlike the left, they will not talk about their own people. They won't voice their dirty linens in the public. Do we need that kind of what do you think? That kind of at least a discipline.
Honestly, while it can become frustrating that the so-called right wing has split into fragments, I don't even see that as an issue.
Right.
It's how we are. Like if we all consider ourselves as Hindu, it's the same thing, right? I mean, we don't agree upon certain traditions, certain rituals, yeah, but we are very clear that if something happens, we'll be together. And
Yeah.
there are always people who go out of that, but I don't see that as an issue. I think a more monolithic messaging is not even possible. Given the fact that the right wing, our so-called right wing, I call them as the reactive wing, given the fact that they are reacting to things that are happening. That is why I earlier talked about what is the framework that you intend to have. If you say, for example, that, hey, I don't believe in certain regulations or rules that the government has put up on certain things, and what is your alternative? We are not offering that alternative, right? So, in my opinion, I think that kind of monolithic messaging is not possible. It would be a pipe dream for us. The best way is for us to ensure that we are one voice when it comes to it.
Right.
Like for example, when Operation Sindoor happened, I am sure that all these different shades of orange and saffron, came together, and with one voice they said that, hey, this is what is needed. So it will. That is my take. I don't see that as an issue at all.
Okay.
Yeah, the more the better. Yeah.
More, you mean more fragmented or more issues?
The more people speaking up, I would say.
Right.
But one of the observations is that right wing is also driven by very egocentric personalities sometimes, and that I think is a bigger issue than having too many fragments. But I think more people with voices, more people that speak out, whatever it is, I think it is always better.
Always
Reinforces
better for...
the freedom of speech that we are never associated with. But I think we have a lot more freedom of speech than the Talibrals will ever have. You imagine one Taliberal praising a movie like Dhurandhar, and everybody else is going to pounce on him or her. So
I guess they got ostracized from
yeah,
Taliban.
absolutely. Yes,
Next
yes,
day.
yes.
And I guess
Yeah,
hopefully they will join
I
us.
just see that as a diversity with ego. That's it.
Well, I guess it was just amazing
Yeah.
talking to you, Bhavesh. And in fact, hopefully we'll just do as many as possible.
Yeah.
As and when you just
Yes.
hop into the city,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Let's have another chat some other time. But thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely, JK. My pleasure. And again, wish Shree TV the very best. Yeah.
Thank you.
Namaste.